Hey y'all, I'm Heather and welcome to my channel, The Debt-Free Quilter. Today we're going to be working on the 4X's block for our Gnome-ster Moon quilt, and yeah, last week I did not feel like messing with quarter square triangles to make an hourglass block. This week, yeah, I don't really have much choice, so we're gonna make some hourglass blocks and some half square triangles. And here will be what the smallest looks like. It's a little bit bulky. That's gonna happen. But that's neither here nor there. So let's get started. Alright, the first thing we need to do is sort out our squares. We have 4 squares in 3 different colors that are the same size. And we need 4 different squares in 3 different colors or focals because that is how the pattern is designed. Now we also need 2 sets of squares that are again the same size for our half square triangle blocks in the outer corners. So what we're going to do first is line up those squares for the half square triangles like so. You can take your pick. You can mark a line down the middle or mark your sew lines or use your triangle papers. It's your choice. I am marking my sew lines as usual. And once we have finished with getting our quarter square triangles cut, yes, because we have to cut first and sew later to make them this way. Then we are going to sew, and then we will go and press everything and come back. And now I'm dropping things. My seam ripper decided it didn't like me for a minute there. Okay. So what I have done here is I've taken these 4 squares that are the same size and stacked them together. The next thing I'm going to do is line my ruler up on the diagonal, point to point, take my rotary cutter and slice it down the middle. Now I'm not going to move it. I'm not going to move it because that will just complicate things. And what I'm going to do now is take my ruler, line it up the other way, and cut it again. Make sure everything's going to come apart nice. Okay. Now the important thing to remember, always close your rotary cutter, is that all of the triangles of one color are going to go on one side. So we get to separate this. Now if you did not feel comfortable cutting 4 layers of fabric, please don't. If you feel only comfortable cutting 2 layers of fabric, that's fine. As you can see, I had 2 squares of this one. So I can just take 2 squares and stack them together, or 2 triangles, 2 sets of triangles. There we go. I promise I can talk, y'all. I will make sense eventually. And then the last ones will go like this. And so we will wind up with 4 units that look like this. This is the reason we needed 2 of one square and 1 of 2 other squares. Now, in all honest reality, it doesn't matter which way you sew these, as long as you sew a side to a side. You want to sew along this side and this side, or this side and this side. It doesn't matter which. You're going to get 1 background triangle to 1 focal triangle, and 1 focal triangle to another focal triangle, because that is how this particular one is made. There are other ways to make quarter square triangles, and we will get to that in a future video. Not sure when, but in a future video. So now that we have this all situated and set out, what we're going to do is make our half square triangles and our quarter square triangles, and get everything situated. So let's go over to the sewing machine. Okay, we're going to start with the half square triangles and then move to the quarter square triangles. Now, we're going to start with 2 of our quarter square triangles. If you use a seam guide, please make sure it is affixed to your machine before you start this. Now, what I'm going to do is take my top 2, line up this corner, because this makes a square. Line it up. And sew. Once again, I'm lining up this inside corner, line up the short edge, and sew. Alright, next we're going to cut and trim these, and then we'll go over and press everything. Alright, let's go press everything. Okay, now we've got everything pressed, but we're not done sewing yet. Now, I know some of you newer sewists out there and quilters out there were looking at your screen a minute ago like I was crazy because I was pressing everything towards the same fabric, this one over here. But what's going to happen when I flip these around? They're going to go in opposite directions, which is exactly what we want. Because if things are going in opposite directions, they're going to nest. And nest very nicely. Now I will admit, quarter square triangles are not my favorite block. They're not my favorite unit, not in any realm of the imagination. Can I make them? Yes, in a couple of different ways. Do I like them? No. But they do have their purpose, and in this case, it's to make a very pretty block. So, we're going to continue our sewing and continue making our block. I'm going to move slightly. Now this is a little bit tricky because you have to keep your fabrics lined up. This is where a seam guide comes in real handy over here, because you can slide that point in up against this seam guide and you'll hit at your 1/4 inch. Then you just have to worry about keeping your fabrics lined up and get you a nice 1/4 inch going along here. See, lining these up can be the tricky part, because quarter square triangles can be very, very stretchy. There's a lot of bias in them. I just line it up right next to that seam guide. Take a few stitches or almost my halfway point. Realign down here. And keep going. Alright, we're going to go press these again, then we're going to come back and trim these down, and then we can sew our block together. And there's one way we can make a quarter square triangle with 3 different fabrics. Let's go trim these. Now to trim these, we want to find our center line, and we want to make sure that there's enough on the outside of the line we need to trim at to make sure we get it squared up nicely. I'm just doing one side at a time. I'm not rushing through this because I need my blocks to be accurate in order for this, well, finished block to come out the right size. want to make sure that I trim all 4 sides. Otherwise, I have to go back and fix one. I'd rather not do that. And when I go to trim, I'm putting pressure on my ruler with my fingers. I have my thumb back here, this finger and this finger pressing down, and these holding it steady, so that we have a nice quarter square triangle to put in our block. So we have our quarter square triangles. Notice the background is pointing away. Like we've got this point pointing toward the center, but the bulk of the background will go out here. We have our spiderweb focal on the inside, and we have these two going side to side here. We want to make sure that this spiderweb fabric is touching our center fabric. So whatever print you picked for right here needs to be touching the print you picked for right here. And in the end, it turns into a pretty cute little star block, even though it's called the 4X's block. So let's get this sewn together and we'll be done. I'm sure y'all noticed I went a little bit slower with this video. And the reason for that is because we did introduce a new block unit, the quarter square triangle. And I wanted to make sure everybody who has never done one before got the concept. So, we have our little one. We have our medium-sized one. The large one will also, yeah, I promise I can talk. The large one will also come out in time lapse as soon as I can get it out. And that's our block for today. It's like I said, the quarter square triangle is not my favorite block. It's really not. I'm not gonna say it's my least favorite, because there's a lot of block units out there that I have never done. And I really want to learn. But this is one of my not super favorite blocks to make, or units to make. But the block itself looks absolutely beautiful. And the blocks that we'll continue to make throughout this series, I'm sure are going to be just as beautiful as these, despite maybe being a little smaller than what the pattern calls for. But hey, we can deal with that later, because you can always make something bigger, and you can only occasionally make it smaller and still come out with a good block. Anyhow, that's where we'll leave it for today. Thank you for watching. Have a great day. Have a great week. We'll catch you in the next video. Bye.